Welcome to Reimagining Miami Gardens. In this groundbreaking podcast dissertation, we examine the profound impact of leadership on government with a specific focus on how it shapes the city of Miami Gardens. Through insightful interviews, in-depth analysis, and compelling narratives, we uncover the intricate dynamics between leadership and governance, highlighting the transformative power of effective leadership in shaping the trajectory of a city. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore the role of leadership in driving positive change and development in the now vibrant community of Miami Gardens.
Welcome to Reimagining Miami Gardens, the podcast where we explore the rich history and leadership that shaped my hometown, Miami Gardens. You know, I'm your host, Oliver G. Gilbert III. They just call me OG. I'm the chairman of the county commission now, the county commissioner for District 1, but I was the mayor of Miami Gardens for 8 years. From parking cars, to going to law school, to running my hometown, I've stayed the course to become the leader the community needed, the community that I love needed. We'll discuss the fascinating journey of Miami Gardens and how it became the largest black city in the state of Florida and a desirable place to live, work, and play. Here today, we're going to discuss reimagining the city of Miami Gardens. We're going to discuss an important time from when Miami Gardens was at an inflection point, and it was important to have transformative change for the city. This time was on the heels of my election as mayor of the city of Miami Gardens. Today, I have a very, 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 very special guest with me. Now, he wasn't the first manager of Miami Gardens because I wasn't the first mayor of Miami Gardens. I was the second mayor, he was the second manager. He's the person who, when I became mayor, I looked for people who I thought understood my vision, understood the vision we had for the city. Because there have been so many things said about Miami Gardens. We'll get into that. And so I went and found somebody who didn't just see what we were, he saw what we could be. I went and found Cameron Benson. Now, Cameron is he still is the city manager of Miami Gardens. He's been the city manager since 2013. Previously, he was the city manager in the city of Hollywood for 9 years. He was also a senior planner with the South Florida Regional Planning Council. Cameron has been a part of the transformative efforts. And when I say been a part of, he's been the tip of the spear for the transformative efforts that we've made to shape Miami Gardens from the city that it was into the city that it is into the city that it can become. It is an honor to have Cameron Benson with us here today to share his insights and experiences. Welcome, Cam.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate being here and look forward to the discussion.
All right, so let's get started. Let's start by explaining to our audience. First, let's give them some background information. What exactly does a city manager do? How does the city manager? What does the city manager do? How does the city? How's the government structured in Miami Gardens?
So most people, I believe that the mayor and council members are the responsible parties for the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
And you're not. They're not. You were not. The current mayor is not. It's really the city manager, and I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations, meaning police, parks and recreation programming, building and zoning services, and things of that nature fall under my direction. Based on the policies that the council sets, we follow through on those policies as an administration. So it's the day-to-day operations. I kind of look at it when people don't really get it. I sort of say, I'm the CEO and you're the chairman of the board. The mayor's the chairman of the board. I'm the CEO, and I carry out the will of the council when it comes to programming, when it comes to efforts to improve community activities and things of that nature.
I like that. I like that analogy. The one I use is that we're the architects. The policymakers are the architects. The one I use is the policymakers are the architects. But the person who actually builds it and makes sure, it runs correctly and make sure the engineering is right, make sure the technical things are right. The person with the technical expertise, the person you choose to do that. The person who's going to make sure the building goes up.
Correct.
Make sure the doors open. Make sure the people get paid.
Right.
That's going to be the city manager. That's going to be the professional staff that he actually or she actually manages. And so, because a lot of times people do think that mayors and city councils and now county commissioners that we tell people what to do. That's not actually how that works.
That's correct. That direction is given to the manager to carry out.
Yeah.
And that's made up of police chiefs, directors, managers, and things, other folks like that are part of the organization that have certain programming that they have to implement, develop and implement, carry out activities for homeowners, carry out activities for programming for parks and recreations facilities. Those are the types of day-to-day things that we're talking about, and the city managers are responsible to ensuring that those things are done in a timely manner and on budget.
Yeah.
Speaking on budget, I always say to everybody, the manager and his staff create the budget, present the budget, but it is the responsibility of the mayor and council members to approve the budget. It is not the city manager's budget at the end of the day. It is the mayor and council members' budget, and we're responsible for implementing those programs and those activities within the budget.
It's interesting. I remember back, and we'll get into some of these questions, but I remember back when I was mayor, an example of, we conceive it, but you actually make it happen is, I remember when I became mayor, we didn't actually use the community center for community events. Well, I remember having a conversation like, well, that's just silly. It's a community center. So there should be community activities in the community center. And so we start doing things like open mic and karaoke.
Yes.
And so we start karaoke, and it's just, modest, 50, 100, 200 people. And now you have 14,000 people who show up for karaoke in Miami Gardens at a community center. The community actually attends karaoke in Miami Gardens. It's an idea of having an idea and then having a manager who's willing to actually invest the time, the resource, the personnel into making sure those things come to fruition. Yeah. It is a really important way. When you're thinking about, like if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking about how we can take leadership principles, how we can apply leadership principles to actually help a city grow, developing a good relationship between your policymakers and your operational and managerial people is important. Having people who understand the vision and people who have the capacity to actually make it happen is important.
I actually want to take it even a little further than that. I've always said to everyone, if the chairman of the board and the CEO don't get along, then the activities that are planned, the activities that may have been imagined, the activities for those things to be implemented may run afoul. Yeah. If that relationship is not a good relationship, the intentions of everyone goes to the wayside. A manager can have a 5-2 vote, a 4-3 vote. It doesn't really matter at that point in time if the CEO and the chair don't get along. And I think over the years when you served as mayor, we didn't always agree with everything. No. But we also understood that when we got behind closed doors, we worked it out, and when we walked out from those closed doors, we had our message.
Yes.
And we carried out that message. And we beat each other up over the years. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we delivered the policies that were set. We delivered them on time, on budget. And then those specialty things that we put in place that you had imagined, that you thought were important, we also accomplished those goals as well.
Yeah. So think back to years ago when you were first hired in Miami Gardens. What was the most pressing issue for you when you took over as the new city manager?
We needed to develop a new team.
Yeah.
We needed a new focus. We needed a new direction. And it wasn't easy because a lot of folks that were there, they came under the old regime with city manager Danny Crew, and a lot of them were not wanting to be a part of the change.
Yeah.
So I sat with you and I said, listen, I'm going to put a plan in place. These are the things we're going to do. These are the things we're not going to do. And based on that plan, those who want to be a part of it will stay. Those who don't want to be a part of it will leave, and then we'll just keep moving from there. Those that leave, I'll hire better people, put them in place, and we'll move forward. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
So we had to find a new direction. I believe at the time there were some people who woke up without expectations. We wanted people who wanted to wake up with expectations. And so therefore, we were able to do that, develop a new team, and then move forward with a different plan of action on a day-to-day basis. And then overall, we also looked at 5, 10 years, and 20 years down the road, which then became your your idea regarding the general obligation bond program.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember folks who said they were leaving because they didn't have confidence in me as a mayor. They didn't have confidence in you as a manager. I also remember when those folks, when they tried to come back to the city and we wouldn't hire them because you only get to fool me once, just once. So you only take that shot once. So if they're listening to this, yes, I still remember. But it's all good. Everything turns out as it should be. So when you think back in those things, so you develop a new team, you get a new team. What's the first area? Like how do you say, hey, you know what? This is how we affect the quality of life and prosperity for the residents of Miami Gardens. What do we look at first? Because I know the things we talked about,
right?
But I know that it was all kind of connected. So it was development connected to law enforcement, because the first thing that everyone ever talked to us about was law enforcement.
Right.
When they talked to us about police, we talked to them about parks and businesses.
Correct.
And so
yeah. And I think the fact that we were talking about police activities and police development and economic development, we didn't answer the question like everyone else would have. We answered the question by saying, no, we're going to change public safety by building parks. We're going to change economic development by looking at our fees and making sure they're comparable to other cities. We're going to change the dynamic of the city through those types of activities rather than just go on and say we're going to change this person, put a new program and things of that nature. So we tried to go out in the community. And let me say this. One of the things that I admired about what you were doing as the mayor was the fact that you did not have a problem going to the community and talking about the changes that we were going to be making. Mm-hmm. And whether they liked it or not, they heard it. And I think we gained respect as an administration and the mayor and council members as policymakers, because no matter what we said this is what we're going to do. We went out and accomplished it, and then we went to the next thing. We never stood around for praise. We never stood around to say, look what we did, look what we did. We just kept moving. And so by taking that approach, it made it a little easy for us to ensure that we were able to change the landscape of how you do business with the city of Miami Gardens. Listen, the many, many, many conversations that you had with the stadium folks changed Miami Gardens.
Yeah.
The way you wanted to make sure that even though Jazz in the Gardens was in place, we changed the way we did Jazz in the Gardens. And so there were a lot of other things like that if not open to change, we created the change.
Yeah, I remember those times and those conversations. One of the things I learned from you, because you were always been very good at development and business. Yeah, development. Yeah, so which is important because that means you can have a tax base. Right. So it was very important. But it was a simple concept. Hey, you can't have businesses if you don't have areas that's zoned for businesses.
Correct.
It's a very simple concept. So people would say, residents would come and say, we need this, we need that, we need more restaurants. And as we started to look at the zoning and the land use policies in Miami Gardens, it just wasn't zoned for it. We'd hear everything. Oh, they don't want to come, businesses don't want to come here because they're racist. Or they don't want to come here because this is zoned for single family homes. Mm-hmm. So let's just change the zoning and see if they come here. Let's change the zoning. I remember those conversations. I remember talking to them, and I remember the pushback. Like, no one wanted to change future land use in Miami Gardens. They didn't want to change major commercial corridors should not be zoned residential. 27th Avenue should not be zoned residential in Miami Gardens. That's extraordinary. Mm-hmm. And so when we had those conversations with folks, they were never really happy. I've got at least, I'm going to vote you out of office 4 or 5 times a day. I mean, it was gonna happen. Like, who knew I would win re-election? Who knew? By a lot. Who knew?
Right.
But because the results started to come in,
yeah.
And they saw businesses start to open, right. And it was a very interesting thing. That's one of those times that I learned that from you, because we needed to actually create an environment that businesses could open in. And then we adjust those fees. Our goal was to always be cheaper than the county.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we're just going to beat the county.
Yeah. and then we'll be all right.
Yeah, if we just beat the county. We make it easier, faster, and cheaper than the county. Well, I mean, I don't know what else you could do. Now that I'm with the county, I would prefer you all not do that anymore. But yeah, it was that was our goal. So, speaking of what were your leadership approach and the values that guided you when you were making your decisions in Miami Gardens? So when you were making a decision, hey, I have to do this or this, what's your process?
Preparation precedes performance. You got to prepare. Mm-hmm. I always wake up with expectations, and through those expectations, it's preparation precedes performance. So when I walk in the room and I have my meetings, when I walk the corridors of City Hall, talking with employees, getting to know them, it's all about making sure that they get the message as well as to what we're trying to accomplish as a city. I don't believe in, and I know you know this, I don't believe in just meeting with the department heads, going to my office, and doing work. I believe in touching, communicating, getting out in the community, getting out and talking with employees to ensure I hear what they have to say. So sometimes we can tweak or make a different direction as to what we need to do to make things happen. You were like that too. Matter of fact, we used to trip over each other, moving up and down the corridors and up and down the stairs to get to an employee to talk to them about some things that may be going on, some things the information we may need. I think that was the selling point of what to do and how to do it. I also thought that in building a team, I think we believe wholeheartedly that the team had to include city council and city administration. Yeah. A lot of times you have city managers and also city councils that believe they're separate and apart, and so you don't need to know what I'm doing, I don't need to know what you're doing, and we'll make it happen. I think we had a different approach. I think I needed to know what you were thinking, you needed to know what I was thinking. If we disagreed, we ironed out where we could meet in the middle on things. Sometimes I had to acquiesce because you knew the subject better than I could ever know it. Sometimes you acquiesce my way because I had some knowledge that you may not known about, but we made it happen. And I think it's the give and take that I believe is the most important. So if I'm giving and taking as a manager with my council members, then I have to do the same thing with my staff. I can't let them think that I'm just going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it. I need feedback. And I think that's the most important thing, that I always felt like I always had the opportunity to sit down with you and even the council members at the time, sit down with them and give my opinion. And I always thought it was received well, even though it may not be the things that someone wanted to hear.
Yeah, no, I think that's very, very, very important. And I remember those conversations between us, and I remember those conversations with you and your staff. Because what you don't know, like one of the things that when I get talked about with my leadership style and all this stuff, and I'm going to ask you a real tough question about my leadership style next. But one of the things that I would always say is I know what I don't know. Right. And so what I try to do is surround myself with people who are very, very, very capable in areas. They can actually do this. I know what my strong suit is. I know what it's not. So I don't surround myself with people who who can do the same things well that I do well. I surround myself with people who can do other things well too, because ultimately it's going to be their expertise that makes us a complete team. So I still take that with me now. The people who are around me, you can see the things that you know I'm not going to do. They are going to do. Mm-hmm. They are going to do those things well. I am a policy person by nature, so I could tell you, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I remember talking to you about the police department, and we had a new idea in Miami Gardens. We were going to do community policing, and our community policing, because everybody said community policing, we want the cops out of the cars and walking the beat. And I was like, hey, they developed that model when there was 20,000 people in Dade County. We have over 100,000 people in Miami Gardens now. We can't really do that. The number of officers it would take to do that and still maintain a really robust response time would be really challenging. But if the goal, what you're really saying is you want people, the officers, to know people. Right. You want them to have relationships. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to send kids from Miami Gardens to the police academy to become police officers for Miami Gardens. So they'll already have relationships, people they can talk to. We're going to give a preference to people who live in Miami Gardens so that when they're not policing, their car is still doing work because it's parked in front of their house. And I remember it sounded so common sense. You know, the idea I came up with initially, you weren't the manager at first, and I wasn't the mayor at first, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. And when I become mayor and you become manager, we get it done. And I remember that first class. From that first class, now we have sergeants, and we have
and potential captains.
Captains, yeah. It's amazing now.
Yeah. And as I always said, one or two of them could be a police chief.
Oh yeah.
And it was the first 12. I always remember that, and I still have a picture of us with that first 12. But policing was a big issue. If you remember, the month of was that November? The month right after I became the manager, we had 11 shootings.
Oh, I remember that. It was me, you, and the police.
And that was it.
That was it. We were just whiskey. I remember. That's the time when I started drinking.
Yeah.
That's when I started drinking.
And we were like, what are we doing? Why are we here? And I'll never forget, you called me that one day, and you said, Cam, make this go away. And I said, I got it. And a couple of days later, I met with the press, I met with everyone, and it went away. And the word or the words we said was, it's under investigation. And it changed the dynamic of how they reported in the city of Miami Gardens from that day on. Because we forgot what we had in-house to make everything happen. Because of every other day there was a shooting. And every other day we were responding and reacting, and we didn't know, and we were running to the homes of the people that were shot.
Yeah.
And it got to be too much. It was
did.
Overbearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we were back in our football days, running to get, you know.
Yeah.
No. That wasn't the way to do it.
Yeah, I remember those times too, because what we actually did too was we made the very difficult decision, because, you know, we're the largest black city in the state of Florida, and policing and black communities has always been tenuous. We made the decision that we were going to do very, very, very assertive policing. So everybody if we knew of a gang member, we knew you were a gang member, you were going to know that we were with you when you left your house. You were going to have to be comfortable carrying a gun in a car with knowing that a police officer was behind you. And you were going to have to, and so we're not going to violate your rights, but we're going to let you know that this is unacceptable. And so, because people needed to feel safe. So all the other stuff we were doing was cool. People needed to feel safe. If people don't feel safe, it's going to be a problem. And I remember those shootings. I remember that time, because in that time, one of my former political opponents launched a recall petition. It got 6 signatures. 6 signatures. A whole story on Channel 4. It got 6 signatures, because even then we began to realize that the city was taking hits, but my personal brand wasn't. They didn't blame me for it. But what I said was, it's our job to solve it, and we actually solved it. I remember when we take over Miami Gardens, where we were on the FBI list. And I remember when I left, you couldn't find us anywhere on the FBI list. Not the top 5, not the top 15, not the top 20, not the top 500 violent cities in this country.
Right.
You couldn't find us anywhere. And it's what we said that we would do if given the opportunity. And so it was really, really something that was an extraordinary thing. So this is your tough question. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right. Now I'm going to sit back. I'm going to ask the question. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to close my eyes.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to give you my look. So this is the question, and I didn't write this question. This question came.
So I don't have to be. I got to be careful about being petty.
No, yeah, you can be petty.
Okay.
This is a safe space.
Okay.
This is a safe space. Everybody agrees this is a safe space. Everybody
agrees.
It's a safe space.
All
right. But the one thing about safe spaces is because it's safe for everybody, so it's going to be safe for my response too. But okay, so it's a safe space. All right. Ask the city manager, how would you describe my leadership as mayor, and how you think it shaped your work as city manager? What do you think my leadership style was? I'm going to sit back now.
Well, you know, I can look at it in a number of ways. So I'm gonna use a number of examples. So I talked about it before as chair of the board, CEO, coach, player. apex predator, apex protector. I got you on that one.
I'm laughing because I remember the interview one time with somebody, and I told him, I said, listen, I got a ferocious intelligence. It's aggressive. It'll come get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just need to stop.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
You know, it's interesting you would ask that question because, you know, I come from a background, and you know this, I played sports, and, you know, as an athlete or former athlete, you go through a lot of training. You go through a lot of listening, a lot of direction, a lot of humility, and you have to be humble. And so whatever the style you had for that day, I felt like I was able to adapt and make happen what needed to happen that day. Sometimes your style was, Cam, I need it right now. We got to get this done. I need it by the end of the day, and you would have it by the end of the day. Cam, I want to take a little step back. Let's deal with this a couple of months from now, and then you would come back a couple of months from now, ask for it, and it will still be ready for you. And so I never really thought of a particular way that you were as far as a mayor and your managing or your directions given to me as a manager. I thought it was something that evolved every day. I thought it was a positive on every day. Yeah, some days I got aggravated. Some days, yeah, I was mad. Absolutely, and then vice versa. But I think
Thank you for listening to Reimagining Miami Gardens.
What the mission
Join us for our next episode as we dive into the leadership principles that guided the transformation of Miami Gardens into the vibrant city it is today. Until then,
each and every day of the week, someone has something to say, and we chose not to listen to them.
Yeah.
We chose not to listen to them. We chose forward. And I think the fact that we took that approach caused others to either take a step back or just retreat.
Remember that first budget hearing and everybody came and they wanted to yell and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And I said, hey, listen, our millage rate's going to be 6.9363. You can tell us what you want. But that's what our millage rate's going to be. And when we have extra money, we're going to stockpile our reserves because we're not going to be the city who can't afford anything.
Right.
So we're going to have a good reserves because we didn't have one when we actually
We
took
did
over.
not.
We didn't have one.
Yeah.
So our money's going to be right. And I remember telling them that. And over the years, at the last budget hearing, people they didn't come and complain anymore. They just came in and say, we just want to say thank you. We enjoyed that. Could we get 1 or 2 more code officers? Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. But setting the standard, the expectation that in those moments that, hey, it's what you have is going to be directly commensurate with what you pay for. And when I say you, I mean all of us collectively. Mm-hmm. And so I can appreciate your description of my leadership style because what I would say is this: I really might have 100 different personalities. I really might have. I'm sure that there's I should be on somebody's sofa somewhere because it's going to be. I'm going to internalize everything that's coming in, and I'm going to come in, and sometimes it's going to be urgent. No, this might not seem like the end of the world to you, but I can see what's coming. I need to stop it now. Okay, so I need it now. Some stuff, you know what? That is what it is. It's important, but it ain't going to hurt nothing. We can get to it later. And so what I think is that you did do an extraordinary job just always being flexible to that. You never knew which Oliver was going to show up. It could be like, okay, this the Oliver, we're going to have fun all day. This the Oliver, we're going to have we're going to have a Monday meeting on Tuesday. A Monday meeting on Tuesday or a Monday meeting on Friday. Our Monday meetings were epic. There was a motto in Monday meeting, every man for himself and God for us all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, every man for himself and God for us all.
Absolutely.
So, because that was the meeting where we're going to have a come to Jesus about this stuff now. We're going, what have you done? And we had the same topics. I want finality on all of these things.
Absolutely.
And so, speaking of, leadership theories, because we do this podcast, and it's about the development of Miami Gardens, the growth of Miami Gardens, the reimagining of Miami Gardens. But it's also about a leadership theory and the different leadership theories. And what I've learned academically now is that as we went through the development of Miami Gardens, there were a lot of different leadership theories that inadvertently I didn't know we were actually working through and we were applying, but we were. And so the one we're examining today is the one by Robert House, he introduced it in 1971. It's the path goal theory of leadership. And the House principles of path goal included clarifying goals, removing obstacles, providing support, and tailoring the leadership style. And I think that's a very important thing. When you think about those as the principles of path goal, can we? I look at clarifying goals, and that's initially kind of what you said, what we talked about. We're going to determine what it is we got to do.
Right. I think when you look at all of those goals that we have in front of us, we use those on a day-to-day basis, each and every hour of the day, just depending on what was in front of us. And even though when we determined what we were going to do and resolve the issues and things of that nature, the one thing that none of these goals talks about is the fact that we never look back. There are a lot of people who go through these processes and these types of goals, removing obstacles, providing support, and for whatever reason, they continue to look back to make sure that it's okay. We just press forward. And I think that when you look at clarifying goals, removing obstacles, we did a number of things regarding that. Offer guidance, coaching, support to their team members. We had many people come to talk to us about what they wanted to do, and we kind of corrected them and said, no, these are the things we need to be done. Adapt leadership styles to meet needs of the team. I think we did that each and every day. Sometimes we did that more than we should have.
Some people could have just got it straight.
I just think that when you look at these things that are laid out in front of us, I think that these things were done every day. No matter the situation.
When you look at the clarifying goals specifically, one of the things I remember you talking about the fact that people needed to be able to have entertainment in Miami Gardens, and you came up with the entertainment overlay district. And it was a district that essentially overlaid our zoning, our land use, that allowed people to do things in certain areas that they weren't allowed to do previously. And then, ironically, entertainment venues popped up in those. Right. And so, but it was the expression that, hey, this needs to happen, and the policy actually following that expression. Removing obstacles. One of the things that we've been working on, and I know that you still work on it, is illegal dumping. People would think that they would dump all over the city, and now it's very specific parts, but us cracking down on those things, because we couldn't call it a garden and it looked like a dump. You couldn't do that. Those things couldn't actually happen. The providing support, what I think about what you talked about earlier, and how you walk around, especially in development areas, the building stuff. You walk around and you talk to them, because it was important. The development, the city manager is important, the assistant city manager is important, the head of development is important, but the permit clerks actually move the paper that build buildings.
Absolutely.
And so talking to them every day, asking their opinion, and how could we improve this process? How can we move this faster? What do you think about this? You empowering them. Actually, hey, why don't you all come to this meeting? Send into this meeting.
Absolutely.
You need professional development.
Yes.
That type of interaction with them actually did as much to help the city and the development area probably as anything else, because they became personally attached to the success of development in the city.
Absolutely.
Personally like I was, and personally like you were. And so that became one of those things, providing that type of support. And then I can't speak enough about your ability to tailor leadership, and in some respects mine, because how you managed the police chief was not how you managed the parks director.
That's correct.
How you managed the parks director wasn't how you managed the development director, because all of them they were special people. But they had different skills, and they had different weaknesses, more importantly.
Right.
And so you would always be able to step in. Like I remember we had some police chiefs, they were all hard-nosed and it was going to be hard. And hey, like, hold on. We're gonna have this training here. We're going to have some community policing programs here. We're going to have PAL here. Yeah. We're going to do these other things also. Yeah. It's not just going to be, the hammer. It's going to be the glove. And so it's. I remember how you did that, and it was all so impressive.
One of the things I want to go to, and I think you kind of said it, but I'm going to express it a little differently. You gave me the ability to do all those things. Some mayors and elected officials may not allow or give their city manager and upper management staff the ability to be themselves and make things happen. I'm not a guy that wants credit. You're not a person that wants credit. We want the credit to go to the city. We want the credit to go to the residents. And I think that helped a lot as well. Mm-hmm. We were not in it for the ego. We were in it to make it happen. And I'll never forget, we took a drive over to Tampa one evening. And I said, Mayor, we have to go over here. This place is supposed to be really hopping, and we might have an end track on this. And you're like, okay, let's go. And we went over there, and we fell in love with Topgolf.
Yes.
And we Topgolf closed at 2:00. I think we were still there at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And you turned to me and said, Cam, I want Topgolf in Miami Gardens. And I said, let's make it happen. Mm-hmm. And a couple years later,
Topgolf, the first one in South Florida, was in Miami Gardens.
It was in Miami Gardens.
Yeah.
And you got to Topgolf before me because I was waiting. I think I had a soccer game with Sia, and I was going to come later. And you called me and you said, Cam, I just got stopped by 5 employees thanking me for bringing Topgolf, and they all live in the city of Miami Gardens.
Yeah.
And I said, isn't that what you wanted? And you said, that's exactly what we wanted.
Listen.
And I think that turned the corner for all the cornerstone stores that others thought that's all we would have.
Topgolf gave us proof of concept.
Correct.
That we could be something more than a place for corner stores.
Right.
What they say, corner stores and liquor stores and weave shops.
Yeah.
That's what the old manager said about what we would have developing in Miami Gardens. Yeah. And it's interesting. The place where Topgolf was supposed to be a truck parking lot.
Correct.
And I remember how we got criticized when we said it wasn't going to be a truck parking lot. It's going to be Topgolf. Some of the same people who criticize us, I see them at the bar at Topgolf. And so, and this is not me being petty, but I hope you enjoy the drinks. So, listen, I think that's all we need for this. Cameron, I want to thank you for coming and being a guest on the podcast, but I also want to thank you for your leadership in Miami Gardens. Leadership is important when you're actually trying to transform a city. And this podcast is about reimagining Miami Gardens. And when the history of Miami Gardens is finally written, your name will be prominently highlighted because what Miami Gardens is, it couldn't have been without your leadership. And so thank you for your service and thank you for your presence here today.
And I thank you for giving me the opportunity. You brought me forward in 2013 to the council to be the city manager after Dr. Crew. And I would tell you, when that happened, I was scared, but at the same time, I was determined to not let you down and not let the citizens of Miami Gardens down. And so I'm always thankful for that opportunity. And I'm also always thankful that I have the chance to serve the city like the city of Miami Gardens and their residents, their business folks. And certainly the transformation will continue. Your leadership will go down in history as the one that transformed the city. And it also will go down in history as the one that others will be measured, as well as continuing to build that foundation that is necessary for that city to be successful in years to come.
All right. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history and leadership of Miami Gardens together. Let's celebrate the past, embrace the present, and shape the future for our beloved city. Stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to continue discovering and talking about how we reimagined Miami Gardens into the thriving metropolis it is now.
Thank you for listening to Reimagining Miami Gardens. Join us for our next episode as we dive into the leadership principles that guided the transformation of Miami Gardens into the vibrant city it is today. Until then,